You know what I'm saying?
That's sweet.
And which is,
Yeah.
and it's funny too. Like, so I posted a video on the blog yesterday on TSL blog, which is the same video I posted directly to Facebook. The one that's on the blog, even though it has a lot of subscribers, it probably gets watched a couple hundred times. The one on Facebook gets watched now. Of course, it's a relative watch, but it's like 1,100 times. And it's like it's just weird what's happened, dude. This whole rented land thing is just weird, man. You kind of got to let go of that whole just, I put it first out on Facebook, second out on my blog. And I put it, and I don't even put the YouTube video on Facebook. Facebook has forced me to do a direct upload because they want to own the content themselves. They're smart. It's interesting, man. It's really interesting.
You foresee them coming out with like a premium Facebook in the future where it's like, hey, here's your premium content. And I mean, I guess they kind of already do that with paid advertising, right? It's like if you want premium placement, you're going to pay for it.
I think there's probably going to be multiple levels of Facebook, and they've just begun to they probably got so many plans that you and I can't even fathom. You know what I mean? And it's stupid where they're going in a good way. I mean, I got to give them credit. They've managed to stay relative, and they've been really playing the game hard for 10 years now. Is that probably right? About 10 years hard?
Probably about that, yeah.
Not many platforms. I showed this this display the other day in a talk, and it was like 50 different social media platforms over the last 10 years. And I said, so how many of these are either not here today or are a completely different evolution of what they were when they started? And it was something like 50%, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. Like, where's Orkut these days?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I know, it's crazy. Well, and I mean, like, look at what Gary Vee's saying about Snapchat now. I mean, like, he's so gung-ho and he's still in it, but all of a sudden Instagram stories come out, and with the firepower of Facebook, and Facebook's kind of like, we kind of blatantly copied the idea, but what are you going to do? We're Facebook. And now you're starting to see all these Snapchatters migrating back over to Instagram where they had bigger followings anyways. I know.
And that's why I do not believe Snapchat is a long-term play.
No, you know what? I haven't figured it out. You know what Snapchat's helped me realize? How boring my life is.
Well,
I mean, oh, hey guys, I'm just and then the time's up and I'm like, cool, I had nothing to say anyways.
Go working, just being me.
Well, it's funny. I have some friends who are police officers, and one time I was driving down the street past 7-Eleven, and here's one of my buddies got this guy over the hood of a car, and he's cuffing him and all these sorts of things, and I just stopped and watched. I was like just so intrigued, and I'm like, if this was in reverse and he was watching me do my work, it would look like,
right.
Like so boring. But anyways, hey man, thanks for joining me back on the Dealer Playbook.
Yeah, my pleasure.
It's fun. It was fun the first time you're on the show. I'm looking forward to today's episode. I had some specific questions, actually, and this is funny because I rarely go into the show with a specific set of questions, but I was on your Sales Lion blog, and I saw something that immediately stood out to me. You did a video about how sales teams need to be participating in digital marketing. Mm-hmm. And you made some really valid points. So my question to you is just kind of kicking this off. Because this is something, right? All these divisions, especially when it comes to car dealerships or any type of business, each department is kind of siloed. They're in their own buckets. They're in their own offices. They rarely, talk to each other. You have your marketing department, your finance, your sales department, your leadership, and all these sorts of things. And the lines rarely cross. But you made the point of, hey, well, look, if the sales team is a part of your team, then they need to be integrated into your marketing. Yeah. So how does that happen? How do you do that?
Well, it's not done through utopic conditions. In other words, This isn't one of those things where we say to the sales team, it would be really nice that if marketing comes up to you this week and they need help with a particular video or a particular article or whatever, that you give them a few minutes of your time. definitively that is not effective. I haven't seen it work. And the comparison that I make is to CRMs. I've never seen a true sales team, like a very sales driven organization, that used a CRM well that wasn't required to do so. In other words, people don't just say, sure, I'd love to do that data entry on the CRM. I mean, I just can't wait. You don't see sales teams do that, right? And so if you don't make it tied to compensation,
Yeah.
they generally do not participate in the CRM. And so it's the same thing with marketing. Now, then the question becomes, well, okay, we make it required. Well, why though? Why do we need to do this? And there's a litany. I mean, there really, really is a litany of reasons. And there's some that I just don't think a lot of people have thought about before, and it surprises me. And so, because we've done so much interviewing, be it text and video, of subject matter experts for different companies, I've seen this come to fruition a bunch of times. And so, I think number one, first and foremost, when you have a very engaged sales team in this process of producing content in conjunction with marketing, you quickly identify the true subject matter experts versus the cloaked subject matter experts. And there are times when you and I might think somebody knows what they're talking about, but because they've been in the game for a while, we don't sit there and watch their sales presentations anymore. They're pitching, and because we don't, we are not aware of the fact that they stopped sharpening the sword a long time ago. And so the industry has passed them by. That happens in the automotive space because people have been in the game for a while, and they're like, I got this on lockdown. And because they're maybe good at talking, they still might be able to close deals, but they're doing the customer a disservice because they really don't understand the product anymore. That is a big problem. And so when we are forced to teach about something in a non-sales situation, it naturally leads to better sales communication the moment that we are faced or confronted with it in a live situation. And I just fundamentally do not believe, if we're really great at sales training, that we allow people to do most of their learning on the fly, especially when it comes to questions, right? So that's why I believe in role plays, and I also believe in marketing participation. So that's number one. It helps us identify true and false subject matter experts. That's number one. Number two is it forces sales team to get with 2016 and beyond. The worst thing we can have right now, in my opinion, in any organization, is a sales team that's still living in 1995, that still thinks that they are the ones that are really the show. You know, in 1995, when I would go to 3 dealerships all within 1 mile of each other, and I would look for the best deal, the relevance of the salesperson in closing the deal was huge. It was just a monster back then, bro, right?
Right.
Today, it's not even close to that because a huge portion of people do not go to more than one dealership because they've already identified the model, right? And so we can't sit there and brag anymore about closing rates. You can't do it. And because of that, what that means is, how do we show that we're more valuable than the other sales team members, other than just, okay, I've been here for a while and I have B-backs and all this. How do I show I'm valuable to the team? Because if the economy tanks again and sales teams have to be laid off, well, are you going to be one of the ones that still has a job? And the ones that are heavily engaged with marketing, the ones that are producing the educational content that is really making the sale on the forefront, they're the ones that the managers, the CEOs, they're not going to want to let go because they're too invaluable to the team.
So, you know, and we're starting to see now where even salespeople are kind of branching off on their own, and I mean, good for them and their own personal branding efforts and that sort of a thing. But they are they are an army of one. They're trying to come up with content on their own. They're trying to build their brand on their own. Are we suggesting, do that, but also get engaged with a store where you have a team of people that can actually
Yeah,
help
I
make
mean,
this
so
happen.
this is an interesting dichotomy that's happening in the industry right now because you have a lot of really, I don't know if it's a lot, but you have a subculture of very frustrated sales professionals that
Hmm.
get what's happening. They understand the importance of all things digital. They want to be engaged in that buying process that occurs long before they set foot on the lot.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, they want to do things, but you've got managers or leadership teams that, once again, are living in 1995. That's hard. I've seen a lot of professionals, even in the automotive space, that have said, you know what, I'm a stallion and I got to run. Because if
Hmm.
stallions don't run, if they're fenced up, they've got to jump the fence. And if you are a sales professional and you can see clearly what's happening and you're not allowed to exercise your creative abilities to create more deals, well, then
Yeah.
you're probably going to quit that organization. And you should, frankly, if they're not giving you the liberty to do those things. And so it's almost like you've got a bunch of digital Davids that they realize they don't have to play by the same rules that have always been played. They don't have to do it the way it's always been done. They can be creative. They can think outside the box. They can be fast. They can be nimble. And they can
Hmm.
just go out and create content, right? Be better teachers and earn that trust, which is all of our goal. And then you've got these Goliaths, which may have been around for a while, and they just do not give their sales team any means or programs or tools to be creative. In a perfect world, you have leadership, managers, etc., are totally bought into this idea that we've all got to be teachers. Trust is the
Hmm.
name of the game. Let's do whatever it takes to get it, make it faster, quicker, easier. That's what it's all about. And then we've got sales teams that get that too. In those organizations, they're going to be the ones reinventing the space that's next. I mean, it's interesting to me that Cadillac is coming out with a new tiered model for their stores.
Hmm.
And they understand the essence of the digital consumer. And the digital consumer is, I want it now. When I go to a website,
Yeah.
I want it now. When I go to a retail store, I'm more impatient than I used to be. I want it now. I want to walk in a direct line. I want to get it. And so Cadillac is setting this model up in the future. It's not happening yet, where the smallest locations are not going to have any vehicles at all. They are going to have virtual reality, and that's really it. So somebody
Hmm.
walks into the dealership, and it could be a booth at a mall. They get to
Right.
drive the new Cadillac and virtually, and the sales process can start and stop right in that moment, and start and stop as in it can be completed. And what does that mean for all of us? I mean, and so this is all happening. It's going to just change the whole shift. There's going to be a huge shift within the industry in the coming years. If we are not participating in digital today, especially with video and video-based content, we're not going to be ready for virtual tomorrow. And the employees and the team members that establish themselves as experts in those areas, they will be in high demand, and they will be able to, in fact, increase their asking price, if you will, with dealerships. And that's why we've got to, when I talk to companies, Mike, it's like the goal is we are all media companies, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I happen to own a media company that also sells fiberglass pools. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yep.
And dealerships need to understand they happen to be media companies that sell also in this
Yeah.
case automobiles.
Right.
It's just what we are. Employees have to see that. If we all see that, man, I think we're going to do great things. If not, we will be the next Kmart of our space, whether we like it or not.
Well, and it's funny. I mean, it's funny you bring this up because we're already starting to see a more virtual purchasing experience. I mean, there's, and it skipped my brain right now. I should look it up, but where they have the automobile vending machines, right? Like they've already got this deal set up, and people are already going, and they're, picking a car. And my kind of prediction for the future was you're going to see these massive, 20,000 square foot dealerships turn into these 2,000 square foot, showrooms. They might have like one of each model with iPads or whatever the next tech is set up and say, hey, here's the vehicle. You can have it in these colors. Click here if you want your financing, boom, and it's all happened while they're staring at the vehicle. So it's interesting to hear you say and talk about Cadillac and that's what they're doing. And it almost makes me think about this revolution that happened when the internet all of a sudden made its big bang and people went, holy crap, this has changed the way we do things. And we're going to see that again as virtual comes into it. People are going to go, holy crap, where did this come from? And what's intriguing about that is we still have people. I mean, I know there's dealerships in Arkansas right now who still don't have a website, don't have a Google Places page, don't have not a single review. Like they haven't even gotten to, so it's going to be a whole lot of catch up, or they're just going to disappear. Like you said, they're going to be the Kmart.
It's fascinating times. And what will happen is once VR takes off, which it will, there will be commercials that you hear on the radio where you'll hear dealerships bragging about the fact that here we don't expect you to make a decision with goggles. We expect you to drive it, to feel it, to touch the cushion, to see the road go by, right? And they're going to say all these things and they're going to act like they're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with insurance providers. I've maybe at any more than any other industry I've spoken to, it's insurance. And I swear at every single one of these events that I attend, somebody's complaining about Geico. And nobody cares that these agents don't like Geico. I'm just waiting for them to say, instead of complaining about Geico, what are they doing about it? Because Geico addressed the two fundamental needs that we all have, which is faster and easier. That's what defines innovation today. Innovation today isn't necessarily flying cars, which you and I will see in our lifetime, and we're all excited about, right? But innovation more so is how I can more easily learn about that flying car and ultimately make the purchase of said car, right? Yeah. Innovation is when you streamline the buying process so well that it doesn't take an hour to do the paperwork once you've shook the hand with the salesperson, or an hour and a half. It only takes 5 minutes because that's how they've made it possible. That's how they've made it happen. That's innovation, my man. And that innovation to me is more important than a car that can fly, which that's going to happen. And that's why we've got, the Elon Musks of the world. But you and I can innovate in very different ways. We don't have to be scientists. We can be obsessed with what the prospect and the customer wants, and that usually takes care of the deal.
Well, and I mean, if they haven't streamlined to buy that, I mean, you're going to have people sitting there going, I just freaking bought a flying car, and I've been sitting in this dealership for 4 hours. Dude, I want to be flying this thing away right now.
I want to be flying it away. I want to be flying it away.
Better yet, can we just do the Tesla model, and I'll buy this thing online, put my down payment, and have it show up at in my drive port or carport or whatever we're going to call them.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, and that's where you see the success of Elon Musk, is because he's, ultimately everything that he's come up with or thought of are things that these sci-fi movie writers thought of and came up with years ago, but he just figured out a way, like you said, going along with your innovation, he figured out a way to make them accessible and easier.
Yes. I mean, the idea that Ford, Chevy, etc. have not gone consumer direct yet is, to me, pretty laughable. Yeah. And because no matter now, see, a lot of them have in some ways dug their own grave because they've got all these dealerships and they've got all these. It's got a big mess on their hands.
Sure.
The smart manufacturers going forward, they will go direct to consumer, like truly direct, because Ford has always been a B2C company. Every commercial they've ever done on the TV has been B2C, but they've trapped themselves because they're a B2B based business in terms of who gives them money, right? Who gives them money.
Right.
And this is what's going to happen. And so this lends itself back to the point where, because people might listen to this, Michael, and say, well, this is all depressing to me. What you're saying is I'm not going to have a job. What I'm saying is this. If you are viewed as a subject matter expert and you are working to build your brand, the brand of you and the brand, of course, of your business, you will never lack a job. It just will not happen. And people will come to you, and you'll get more opportunities than you ever realized. That's what I know to be true. That's the thing I know to be true because I've seen it again and again and again in a multiplicity of industries.
Mm-hmm. You make yourself irreplaceable.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Whereas right now, I mean, the people that would be worried, the people that find this perhaps depressing to think about, oh man, I'm going to be out of a job in 10 years, are the ones that are just showing up because it's a job.
Just showing up, and they're sitting there bragging about their 70% closing rates, which means you know what?
Yeah.
In 2016.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about your closing rates in 2016, especially. Do you know how many companies have contacted me, bragged to me about their high closing rates, and then told me they're in huge financial trouble?
Doesn't make any sense.
Your high closing rates don't mean jack. They mean nothing. They mean nothing in 2016. Because if you can't get enough leads, all these closing rates don't matter. It is not a celebration that you close 7 out of 10 deals. That's nothing to brag about today, especially if you're in the automotive space.
So so basically what we're saying, for those of you watching, listening, if you're in a position right now where you're trying to figure out, okay, what's the next step for me? You're hearing it. Build a brand, be the subject matter expert. And I'm going to ask your take on this. There's so much back and forth in the car industry, probably every industry, but since I'm like heads down in the car business, oh, how come there's all these people calling themselves experts? And what does that mean? And it's almost like the people that say this, for some reason, think the term expert is synonymous with like God. Like these people are professing that they are gods in their space. What's your take on this? I mean, we're talking about becoming a subject matter expert. It's a sensitive topic in the car business. There's always debate. Are you an expert? What makes an expert? How can you say you're an expert? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So a couple things to that point. First of all, my opinion, your opinion about really anything doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what consumers want. Case in point, it doesn't matter to the millions of people on Facebook that I don't necessarily love Facebook. They don't care. They don't care. And nobody, if you look at all of the changes that have happened over the years, the consumer never cared that you or I didn't want that. The most famous case study in the automotive space, of course, is Henry Ford. We celebrated Henry Ford because he made it faster and easier. And then we scorned Henry Ford because he said, my opinion is this, and therefore, because it's my opinion, we're going to do it this way, which is why he almost essentially lost. I mean, he went from being one A, B, C, D, E, F, and G to being 2. And that's because he allowed his stupid opinions, pride oftentimes is what it is, to interfere with smart business. Never allow personal opinions to interfere with smart business practices. It doesn't matter if you like LinkedIn. Do your customers liked it? It doesn't matter if you like Facebook. It doesn't matter if you're not good on video. You need to get over yourself and get good on video, because every time someone looks at you and you are pitching them, essentially you're on video. In case you haven't realized that, you're already on video. And so you got to let go of all these ideas and you got to get over yourself. You got to get over yourself. And I'm saying this to everybody. I had to get over my fears of technology. I was not a technology maven at all in 2009 as a pool guy. And of course, I had to get over myself. I had to get over the fact that I was afraid to death to upload my first video to YouTube because it was intimidating to me and I just didn't understand the whole deal. And so now we're getting 600,000 visitors a month to the website. And I'm really glad that I didn't allow my stupid personal opinions to interfere with something that dramatically changed my life. And so we've got to be careful about this. Now, with respect to experts, the marketplace dictates experts. You and I can't complain about anything because the marketplace is what's going to call the spade, right? And so it's kind of like when I hear this is going to offend everybody. It's going to offend everybody, so I'm going to go ahead and say it.
The most controversial episode.
Yes.
No, just kidding.
So I hear people say Hillary Clinton is dumb, and then I hear people say Donald Trump is dumb, right? And they both just like emphatically say they're both dumb. Newsflash, both of them are really smart people. Because you don't get to where you are, where they are, by being dumb. Do you see what I'm saying? And so it's a spade. The spade now, they might not be honest. They might not be this or that, but they're not dumb. Do you see what I'm saying, Michael?
Yeah.
And this is so they are experts. They are experts. Now, you may or may not like it.
Sure.
But the marketplace listens to them. That's why they won a ticket. Both of them won a ticket for their respective parties. Okay? So now we have to get over ourselves. Now, what we're dealing with in the world of sales and marketing is when I was 30 years old, I started producing all these videos about fiberglass pools, and I started saying, look at it like this, Michael. I was almost like a Ford dealership. In the fiberglass space, there's all these manufacturers at the time, about the exact same amount there is in the automotive space, about a dozen majors, okay?
Sure, yeah.
And I started producing all these rating and reviews, pieces of content, all this stuff, talking about the good, the bad, and ugly of these manufacturers, and they freaked out. And they, literally said, who's this snot-nosed 30-year-old kid think he is talking about us when he doesn't know jack about manufacturing a fiberglass pool? Fact of the matter is, there's a 5-year run before I got out of swimming pools. I'm still a part owner, but I'm not aggressively educating that space anymore. Where I was the foremost voice in the world on fiberglass swimming pools. And I couldn't even install a fiberglass swimming pool myself. But the world, I would get emails from people all over the world saying, Marcus, I don't trust my pool builder. Would you please come out and oversee the installation of this swimming pool because I trust you. Yeah. And that's the name of the game. I don't say that to brag. I say it because that's what the marketplace dictated. That's what they said. So that's
the reality.
That was the reality. I was the foremost expert perceived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though I wasn't necessarily a pool installer, because I was good at teaching other people about it and simplifying it in a way that people could understand it, I own the market. And that's what we all can do. That's what we all can do. And that's why it doesn't help to complain about the fact that somebody called themselves an expert. The marketplace will take care of if they're an expert or not. Just like, if McDonald's goes out and creates a sandwich they say is the best thing ever, the marketplace will dictate quickly whether it was very bad and a flop or whether it was good. That's how it works.
Sure. I.e. innovation.
Yeah.
You innovated. You made it easy.
Made it easy. I didn't create something. I'm not Albert Einstein. I'm not Thomas Edison. I did not tangibly invent something, but I did make it easier for them to learn about fiberglass pools. And that's what made me an innovator at the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so switching gears a little bit. I mean, 600,000 visitors a month. There's a lot of people that heard that and are now asking themselves, I've never experienced that for my car dealership. Is that possible for a car dealer website to get 600,000 visitors a month?
So here's what's interesting about car dealerships, what they did for so long. For so long, they allowed third-party sites to dictate the brand of their manufacturers, and the consumer view on the industry as a whole. And so let me give you a case in point. It was about 5 years ago. I was looking at Ford Motors blog. And I was like, man, this blog sucks. Because I couldn't find simple things. For example, let's say I went online and I researched, 2000 at the time, 2010 Ford Ranger versus the Toyota, whatever, Sonoma or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Can't remember
sure.
names. You couldn't find anything on Ford about that because Ford didn't bother talking about how their stuff compared to other people's stuff. Now, this is what, if you go to any major automotive website that's educational, that dominates the marketplace, that's the type of stuff they address. And they do it well. And they do it without bias. And what happened is all these manufacturers and all their dealers allowed these third-party sites to control the industry because they were too afraid to address what we call the ask you answer, which is the questions of the marketplace, right? The questions of the marketplace. Now, is it easy to do this as a regular dealership? Fundamentally, no, it's not easy at all. And the reason is because there's a lot of content. Or in other words, in the automotive space, the CSI, that's what I call it, the content saturation index, is very high. And so the more saturated an industry is, the harder it is for you to stand out above the noise. Okay, so certain industries like social media have a very high CSI. Other industries like rocket engine part manufacturers have a low CSI. So how do you deal with it? Well, the beauty behind the automotive space is that there is constant change, constant evolution, and constant new stuff to talk about. So even though you might not dominate the conversation on what was, you can dominate the conversation on what is and what will be. And there's where you have the big opportunities, right? And there's where you can just throw your fist on the table and put your stake in the ground and say, we're going to be a thought leader in this space. And really be aggressive, especially in addressing the major consumer-based questions you get every day, like 2016 Ford Mustang versus 2016 Chevy Camaro, which is the best American sports car. That's a video, that's an article, that's a whatever you want to call it, that needs to be produced, I believe, by any dealership that is selling one of those two models. Because if I am someone that's looking for the best American sports car and that's what I want to go buy, and there's a lot of people like that, especially a lot of men are just like that.
Sure.
That needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed. I still don't think many dealerships are doing it well. I think dealerships at this point, depending on the size of the dealership, every dealership needs to have one full-time photographer minimum, at least full-time videographer minimum, and at least one full-time content producer for the website. Okay, so those three that are full-timers, that are the absolute minimum, and this is for one branch. This is for one branch. Now, if you're a mom and pop automotive shop that's, just you got 20 cars on the lot, it's a different game. I understand that. But if you're a regular dealership, you need to be at that point at a bare minimum in 2016.
Going back to, you're a media company that just so happens to sell vehicles.
That's correct. That's exactly right. You have to see, and if we are a media company, what's next? And so if you're not producing a new piece of content every day as a standard dealership in North America, you're flatlining, in my opinion. I mean, you're just not keeping up. You're just not keeping up. Because here's the thing, with the fact that we're doing all of our research beforehand, and we're going to start to buy cars virtually, we're leaning heavily on this legwork. I mean, the vetting process is more intensive than it's ever been for a vehicle. And that will only elevate itself. It's not going to go down. And it's not even going to plateau. It's just going to continue to go up. And so what that means is we have the opportunity right now for the vehicles heretofore to really stake our claim in that we are just going to be obsessively educational about everything that is coming out. Everything.
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense. It makes so much sense. It should be common sense.
Now, one other thing about this, Michael, and this is this is one point I've got to bring up because this is where a lot of dealerships are going to screw up. I've seen a lot of dealerships that produce a lot of content, but they miss one thing and therefore they don't gain ultimate trust. Every vehicle's the video or the article sounds like this, and this is the 2015, Chevy Camaro, and oh, we love this car. Let me show you what this car's got, and everything is just this car's friggin' amazing, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's sales.
Flawed,
sales
man.
pitch.
It's just flawed. You can sit there and you can tell me about how much horsepower it has and how big the rims are and how much leg space it has and all that. But see, that's not going to win. And that's not going to distinguish you because everybody else that's going to be doing content is going to be doing it like that. What distinguishes you is you start off and say, okay, folks, today we are going to be looking at the 2016 Chevy Camaro, and a lot of people have been asking about this vehicle. And the cool thing is, us here at Marcus's Automotive, we give you the good, the bad, and the ugly of all the vehicles. And so today, we're going to look at each one of these pros and cons. We're going to analyze them. We're going to show them to you. You're going to get down to the nitty and the gritty. And so that by the end, you'll be able to know if this is the right car for you. And so we still have that vibe, man. We still have that excitement, but it's the excitement combined with, holy crud, this person is going to tell me exactly, is this the right vehicle for me? And they're going to allow me to decide. They're not going to say, yeah, this is the vehicle for you. They're going to say, don't get this if you're looking for this. But if you're looking for this, then you're probably on the right track.
Well, and the nice thing about that approach is, I mean, aside from the credibility is, I think sometimes we forget, it's about the main brand that I've obviously franchised into, but I've got this whole lot of pre-owned vehicles, and I've got a massive selection that will suit the needs of whoever. So it's not really going to harm me, and I think that's what a lot of people think is, man, this would harm me if I start talking bad about my own product. There's now that I'm back into riding motorcycles, there's a YouTube channel that I've subscribed to, Fort9. And I'm going to link to that in the show notes, but he does a phenomenal job because he'll do a review on, the top 5 motorcycle helmets. And every time he does it, he's like, okay, this, then this is all good. But there's also 3 things that you should be aware of, and he does kind of point out in a very, he's pointing out the things that aren't good about the helmet or things that you should consider, maybe not necessarily negative things, but hey, if your head's this shape or, if you find yourself commuting a lot, this helmet might get a little bit stuffy. The airflow isn't quite there like it is on this. But ultimately, at the end of every video, it's like, hey, go check out fort9.ca where you can, view the selection of all the helmets that I've talked about in this review. And I mean, it's a booming business.
Absolutely.
It's a booming business. So kind of the same thing. You've got all these vehicles on your lot. You can talk about them, pros, cons, good, bad, ugly, like you said.
You cannot pitch a product effectively in 2016 and beyond without discussing both sides. In fact, the smartest salespeople, literally, they will not do a pitch until they find a reason why somebody would not purchase the vehicle. Like they understand from on a psychological level, they've got to say at least one thing as to this vehicle is probably not a good fit for you if.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, and that's what people are looking for.
Yeah, but that's the problem with common sense. It's all too uncommon, right? And so we just don't see it very much. And I would say 5% of the videos online in the automotive space do that or less.
Yeah. It's a great day at ABC Motors.
Yeah, it's always a great day. It never rains here.
Yeah, it never rains here. Look, man, this has been awesome. Predictions, strategy, insights. I could go all day. Well, I couldn't actually, but you know what I mean. Neither one of us could, but we'd like to. Appreciate you being on the show. How can where's the best place for people to just kind of keep diving inside your brain?
Well, if you want, you can read my book, which is Don't Wait, Dominate. Yeah, the easiest.
There's a real good review on the back.
I would strongly recommend that book, by the way, to everybody, because it is looking ahead, and that's what it's all about. We've got to look ahead. We can't feel sorry for what's happening. We've just got to continue to look forward. If anybody wants to find me, just email me, Marcus at thesaleslion, SALESLION.com. Marcus at thesaleslion.com. Love questions from people. I appreciate them. You can certainly check out my website, thesaleslion.com. And if you're looking for a speaker at your next event, I love the automotive space. I spoke in 3 different continents within the automotive space last year, and it was a highlight of my year. And I just love the space. One last thing I want to say about this space, because I love it so much. It's sad to me that when you say used car salesperson, so many people have a negative connotation with that. What I have
Right.
found is that 90% of all the salespeople that I've ever met, and I've met hundreds in this space, are really great, good, true people. 10%, maybe not so much. But what failed all of us wasn't the people, it was the process. The process is what gave the industry a bad name. My challenge to everybody is not to continue to do it the way it's always been done, because we'll continue to get the same results. Let's do it differently. Let's change the process, and let's obsess over that magical word, which is the business we're all in, which is trust. That's the name of the game. And I think if somebody's thinking about that on a personal level, on a collective level within their dealership, I think they're going to be very, very prepared for whatever happens next.
Love it. Man, appreciate you being on the show. It's always a pleasure. Love to have you back as well.
See ya. We'll have to do that when the flying cars come out.
Yeah, well, let's do it from a flying car. Love it, man. Thank you.
Thank you.